a lot of Hollywood officials would happily see die a quick death. An old grey hearse with somber organ music, scoring the tour guide's description of grisly murder and ghosts. Hollywood's Graveline Tour is a look behind the tinsel curtain, a ghost ride through the darker side of fame, where the stories of horror and bloodshed are all too real, and the storytelling all too gleeful.
Hollywood sign was built in 1924, and it originally said Hollywood Land. It was to advertise a real estate development, and it became this amazing symbol to people. And one of those people was an actress named Peg Entwistle.
River Phoenix hit the pavement just to the right of that awning. Right over there is where he collapsed.
She was in a film called 13 Women, and when it was released, the reviews were bad. She was pretty devastated, and she felt that she had nowhere else to turn. One night, actually it was the night of September 18th, 1932, she told her Uncle Harold that she was going to climb the canyon to a friend's house, and she would be back later, but she never did come back.
Okay, coming up on our right is John Belushi's bungalow, bungalow number 3 of the Chateau Marmont. The people that were on my tour that stayed there, it was great. They let us park the hearse and we got to go in and we got to lay on the bed and everything. It was cool.
Peg Entwistle had, in her despair, written a note saying goodbye, and perhaps if she had ended things sooner, she wouldn't have caused so many people so much trouble. And she climbed the electrician's ladder behind the H to the top of the 50-foot ladder, and she stood there for a long time at the top of the sign that had beckoned her, really, to this city, and she leapt to her death.
Now we're looking at this building.
Here's where Friday died on Thursday. It was on the 26th floor of this tall...
And now she has become famous in a way that she never intended. She is famous for being the only person to commit suicide by leaping from the Hollywood sign.
For every success story in Hollywood, there are 1,000 failures. For every living legend, there is a tragic ghost. And for every ghoulish story, there is a storyteller.
How haunted is Hollywood?
Well, Hollywood is not quite as old as England or most of Europe or even New York. So I don't think we have the plethora of ghosts that exist in other areas, but we do have the market on famous ghosts, I think.
There seems to be a ghost around every corner in Hollywood.
Pretty much, at least a skeleton in the closet, that's for sure.
Scott Michaels and Laurie Jacobsen are in the business of death. Glamorous murder, celebrity tragedy, the dark side of the Hollywood mystique. Laurie Jacobsen writes books filled with real-life Hollywood ghost stories. Scott Michaels drives a hearse for his Graveline Tours, pointing out infamous addresses on streets paved with blood and regret, playing the pipe organ music you're hearing now.
This afternoon, you'll have the unique experience of being on a tour and an attraction on everyone else's tour, because you'll be stared at and laughed at and pointed at and spat at and photographed, etc., all the above.
The most popular Hollywood ghost stories concern the legends, but in the Hollywood death business, it's not the brightness of the star, it's the restlessness of the ghost.
Hollywood and Vine, one of the most famous street corners in the world, I think. And back in the early days of the movies, Lon Chaney Sr. used to wait on that corner for a bus every day. And even after his death in 1930, many, many people reported seeing the ghost of Lon Chaney Sr. sitting on a bus bench, waiting for his bus. Finally, one day, they removed the bench, and with it went the ghost of Lon Chaney. He has never been seen on that corner again, but people still believe that you can wait an eternity for a bus in Los Angeles.
Mars is over there. He claims to be from Mars, and that hat is quite a work of art. He has probably hundreds of electronic devices on it. He claims is his communicator.
Just a block down from the corner of Hollywood and Vine was a mortuary, and many famous people were buried in this mortuary, including Bela Lugosi, Filmland's Dracula. Some Hungarian friends of his ran the mortuary, and he used to stop in there and greet them every day. And years later, he was laid in state in this mortuary, and after he was put in the hearse and he was on his way to the cemetery, the hearse driver was supposed to cross Hollywood Boulevard and go above it. But suddenly, as he tried to go his usual route, the hearse veered onto Hollywood Boulevard and seemed to be driving itself down to the corner of Hollywood and Vine, where it paused for a moment. And I think that was Bela just saying goodbye one last time to his favorite corner and his favorite, perhaps his favorite place in the world. Maybe he was waving to Lon Chaney.
The house you're going to see next appeared once a week on American television for 14 years. It was also the real-life home of the stars of that show for 25 years. On the right, Ozzie and Harriet's house.
Well, now Ozzie's kind of a fun ghost. First of all, Ozzie was not ready to go.
Ozzie died in 1975 in the bedroom of the house of cancer. He never smoked or drank, and every day would take a 2-mile swim in the Pacific Ocean. Some people say that's what did him in.
And he was not reconciled with his fate. And so he continues to hang around. And he has been seen continually at the home in which he lived for more than 25 years with his wife, Harriet, where he raised his boys, Ricky and David. And besides the usual ghostly goings-on,
Faucets turning on and off, light switches turning on and off, even objects moving in the house.
besides all of that, many female residents in the house have been a little unnerved to feel in the middle of the night the covers being pulled back off the bed and someone nuzzling at their neck and taking certain liberties.
One of the women actually woke up with her covers pulled down and her bedclothes pulled up.
Ozzie's been a little rambunctious in the middle of the night.
You'll be brought to the scene of many crimes, suicides, deaths, scandals, as close as we can, but we still have to keep a dignified funereal pace in the traffic. So a lot of times it's a real quick glimpse.
What did happen to Albert Decker?
Nobody knows really for sure. Albert Decker was an assemblyman. He was a Broadway actor. He was a very well-respected Hollywood actor and a very well-respected member of the community. He was engaged to be married. He was just about to close escrow on a house that he and his fiancée were buying. He had just finished shooting The Wild Bunch and had been paid in a large amount of cash. He didn't answer the phone for 3 days. His fiancée became very nervous. She went to his apartment, and she got the manager to open the apartment door. Now, some reports say that the bathroom door was locked, and other reports say that it wasn't, locked from the inside. At any rate, when they opened the bathroom door, Albert Decker's fiancée fainted dead away from the sight of his dead body hanging in the shower. He was handcuffed. There were ropes and leather straps tied around various parts of his body. He was blindfolded. There were dirty words and drawings written all over his body in lipstick, in areas that he could not have reached by himself. There were hypodermic needles sticking in him, and the police called it indicated suicide. None of his friends could imagine that he would ever allow himself to be found in this position, much less indulge in these sorts of activities. So it's one of those Hollywood mysteries, and I think we will never know exactly what happened to Albert Dekker.
How many dead bodies have been in this hearse?
Oh, gosh, hundreds, I'm sure. I mean, it's a 1971 hearse. We bought it from the funeral home a year ago. So that means for 23, 24 years, it was used as a real tomb buggy, if you will. The bod pod or the dead sled. I've heard them all.
Scott Michaels' irreverence toward death extends to the forgotten celebrities who star on his Graveline tour.
Now be watching out the right side, and as soon as these houses cleared, you'll see it twice. A tan-colored apartment building about 15 stories high.
The suicide of Diane Linkletter in the 60s, a troubled daughter of a celebrity.
Daughter of television host Art Linkletter.
She had some really bad LSD trips and yet continued to take LSD. She was having trouble finding herself and finding her own career, as the children of many celebrities have that problem of really seeing who they are. And LSD only intensified her confusion.
Right over there.
She had taken it on one particular night. She was having a really bad time. She called a friend and asked him to come over. He was trying to calm her, but was unable to. He called her brother. Her brother was on his way over, when suddenly Diane threw a chair up against the kitchen sink, climbed onto the sink, and was opening the window. Her friend ran up behind her, grabbed her by the belt loops of her jeans, but she pushed herself out the window and the belt loops broke away.
She was only 20 years old. Diane Linkletter is buried in Forest Lawn. Sal Mineo rose to fame in the 1955 classic Rebel Without a Cause.
Poor Sal Mineo. At the end of his life, he had about $10,000 left to his name. He was hoping that a play would bring him back to the attention of Hollywood, and he was coming home from a rehearsal for that play when he was surprised by a young robber who was out for a thrill kill. Many people believed that it was a lover's quarrel. Sal Mineo was gay, and police went with that for a number of years. What most people don't know is that the real murderer was arrested and jailed for another crime and was bragging to his cellmate that he had gotten away with murdering a movie star, Sal Mineo, and the cellmate turned him in. Sal Mineo was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Today, the Graveline Tour drives on. Each year, more stories are added along the way. Each year, Lori Jacobsen finds more stories for her books. The place that gives life to so many dreams and fantasies remains bonded with death.
I think the reason that our tour in particular is very popular is because it deals with the sort of seamier side, the stuff that sells the rags, you know, the National Enquirer and the Star and the Globe. It's all the juicy stuff that you don't really hear. It's not washed out. It's the truth. And since America is so fascinated with their celebrities, I mean, it's the closest thing that we have to royalty here in the States, every single facet of their life becomes a fascination to everyone.
People have always been fascinated with movie stars since the very first cameras rolled here. And by taking the Graveline Tours, they can actually see where they lived, where they romanced, and where they died. And I personally believe that where people died is sacred ground. It's just endlessly fascinating.
It's a bit of a macabre job to do, isn't it, Scott?
Oh, absolutely, and I wouldn't do anything else in the world. If God came down and said you could do anything in the world, what would it be? This is it.